but one of our members, Sherry, isn't here, so Karen will be presenting for her. So please forgive her if she looks at the slide too much because one of our members aren't here.
You can also, if you just go down to the bottom right, see how there's like a little projector guy right there? Yep, just click on that.
So, the birth of Douglass helped shape his ideas on slavery. Douglass was born in 1818 in Maryland. Douglass was raised by his mother and white father. In 1862, Douglass was sent to Baltimore where he was taught to read and write. In 1838, Douglass escaped from slavery. In 1841, Douglass became an abolitionist. This all led to Douglass being born into slavery, soon became very knowledgeable about the injustice occurring, which led him to becoming an abolitionist.
So we wanted to start with answer first. So we said Douglass's upbringing shaped like his views and opinions about slavery because like his life was kind of plagued from the start. He had a white father and a black mother, so at the time it was very looked down upon, and he was just like, it pushed him, I feel like it pushed him even more because he was so, I don't know, he was just looked down upon in society for having a white father, and him learning how to read when he was being brought up in slavery showed him like open his eyes to like the injustices of slavery because now he's able to understand it more, and he really sees like slavery is like a big issue, and it just opens his eyes more rather than being an ignorant slave who just thought this was the way of life. And then we said that Douglass's first speech gains him In his first speech, Douglass gained confidence about speaking out against slavery because his first speech was informal, so it's not like he planned to do it. It was just kind of like informal. He just kind of went up and talked about slavery, and he kind of gained confidence because like the crowd was so interactive with him. He's like, okay, maybe I can do this. And so like his first speech opened the doors to him becoming an abolitionist. And so we said his second speech helps him gain popularity with like the public because his second speech is his most famous speech, and it's the 4th of July speech when he's talking about how the 4th of July is just a mockery of the United States because they're talking about freedom, but yet they're keeping people hostage. So we said his second speech and his first speech, as well as his upbringing, all contributed to the impact of him later influencing people like Malcolm X and Dr. Martin Luther King about being active, about becoming a great activist for the freedom of blacks. In 1841, Douglass is at an anti-slavery convention, and like William Garrison kind of comes up to him and is like, oh, can you go talk about your life, about how it was for you in slavery? And Douglass, it was like an informal speech, but he does it anyway. So I feel like this quote was like a really good quote from the speech. He says, "Thus you see, my hearers, this prejudice goes even into the church of God, and whence comes it? The grand cause is slavery." And like this white old man from the crowd goes, "Yes," exclaimed a white old gentleman. When they behave wrong, they are told, "Black man came, come catch you." So I feel like this was a very good quote because it's his first quote, but he's talking about how slavery is like hand in hand with religion because like this is how the white masters was able to keep their power, and like he's even able to get a white person from the crowd to like agree with him and say yes. And at the time it's kind of like odd that a white person would exclaim from his seat and say, "Yes, Brother Douglass, I agree with you." And so we said his first speech he was able to like persuade his audience, and that he was described as very eloquent and like he was a good public speaker.
So we said that there was mainly two motives for him like to start off his speech and start his career. And the first motive, we said that he realized that slavery was a matter of politics and not public opinion. Because like everybody everybody around this time, like, there was different opinions. Like, even though a minority believed that slavery was wrong, he thought that, like, talking to just the people was going to help. He was going to talk to people. He needs to talk to powerful people, like, people with politics in the government. So that's why he, like, went to the government. He was like, if I want to make a difference, I have to be a part of the government, even though I am a minority. Okay, and then his second part was he was very passionate about the anti-slavery movement because he was a slave himself, so he had the background, he knew what it was like to be a slave, so who's not a better person to give these speeches, which led him in 1941, he went and he joined the anti-slavery movement, where he worked with these people, and he worked with these people, and he was able to, like, show his story to convince them, because he didn't think that, like, you just need to convince them by, like, giving a speech. He needs to make it personal, which made, like, his career as a speeches.
In 1841, Douglas gave a speech that addressed mostly to white and abolitionist audience. One member of his audience said that the flintly hearts were pierced and cold ones melted by his eloquence. President Douglas, with his eloquent language, was able to impact his audience, who was getting his point across, and everybody listened to him. Even years later, Martin Luther King's wife said Martin Luther King was inspired deeply. She then went on to say that Frederick Douglass had a dream, and his words still live on. Even years after Frederick Douglass's death, he was still inspiring and impacting many others to do the same as he did.
So Douglas was not a supporter of Independence Day since independence was striped from African Americans. As a young boy, Douglas had a first-hand experience of what it was like to be a slave. In his autobiography, he bluntly writes about what it was like to be a slave. One day, he viewed his aunt being beaten, so he said he commenced to lay on the heavy casket and soon the warm red blood came dripping to the floor. His aunt was being whipped by a white man, so Douglas viewed what slavery was like. So this led him to not supporting Independence Day because independence was about freedom, and he didn't support it because blacks were not free, they were dehumanized, their rights were gone. So he thought America was hypocrites for taking away someone else's freedom but celebrating freedom themselves.
So basically, like, Douglas had like 2 points for like why he wrote his speech of what it is to a slave 4th of July. So like we saw one of the motives was that like with him previously being a slave and then also like realizing that it's really wrong, it led to him to write his 4th of July speech. Because like he didn't really like when he was a slave, and then like he just didn't like how the treatment was for slaves, and he felt like it was wrong. So like he just wanted to show in his speech to the slaves that like for them like they should be like free, and then like freedom was like a main point for them. So like he wrote that speech to like encourage other African Americans that like they shouldn't be under this institution of slavery.
Frederick Douglass delivered his speech to a white crowd because they could provide more change. Frederick Douglass's 4th of July speech was given by Frederick Douglass and a crowd full of white people. His speech, his 4th of July speech, mocked liberty because America had claimed to be a free country, but yet they held millions of people captive. Frederick Douglass's 4th of July speech was influential for the slaves because it was astonishing to know a black man just like them spoke to a room full of white people as if he was a leader. His white crowd viewed Douglas as one of them. Frederick Douglass's speech helped slaves to grow motivation and grow hunger for freedom and strive for freedom. His speech also influenced slave owners to really think about them having slaves as injustice rather than just a way to make a profit.
So this is our concluding slide, and we believe that Douglas's background of witnessing slavery and also learning how to read both opened his eyes to the injustices of slavery. And like when he learned how to read, he was able to portray his views forward, and he was able to Douglas learning how to read and write, he was able to teach his fellow slaves what was really going on and why slavery was so bad in their condition. And we also said by Douglas delivering his speeches opened the road to him becoming an abolitionist, because his first speech he realized that he could move people through his words. So that kind of opened the doors to him becoming an abolitionist. And his second speech gained him popularity, and it made people learn more about his ideas. So these two speeches was very important to Douglas's career. And we said finally this concluded to the impact of Douglas changing the hearts of many white people during this time. Like Jamal said, slave owners, for them to realize that slavery was an immorality, not just a way to get economic means. And we also said the other impact was Douglas had a lasting impact on the activists after him. For example, like Talia said in her slide, he influenced Martin Luther King Jr. as well as Malcolm